I was 17 when I found out I was pregnant. It happened on a Monday. I had been feeling sick for a week, not like a cold, more like my stomach was turning inside out every morning. At first I thought it was stress, or maybe something I ate. But when I missed my period for the second time, I knew something was wrong. I bought a cheap pregnancy test at the drugstore near school. The cashier didn't even look up when I paid. I walked home with it shoved deep in my backpack, like it was some illegal thing. I waited until everyone went to bed. My parents were downstairs watching a crime show, and my little brother had fallen asleep playing Xbox. I locked myself in the bathroom. My hands were sweating so bad, I almost dropped the test. I followed the directions exactly. I waited 3 minutes. 2 pink lines. I stared at them for a long time. Like maybe if I looked hard enough, they'd disappear. But they didn't. 2 lines. No mistake. I sat on the cold bathroom floor for an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, feeling like the whole world had tilted sideways. I didn't tell anyone. Not my mom, not my dad, not even my best friend Lena. I just shoved the test into the bottom drawer of my desk under a pile of old notebooks. The baby's father? His name was Jason. He was 19, already in college. We had a thing over the summer. He was cute, older, and treated me like I mattered. I thought it was something real. Turns out it wasn't. I texted him once, saying I was late and scared. He left me on read. Then I saw he'd blocked my number. That was it. Just gone. Like, I'd imagined the whole thing. I didn't have anyone else. My parents were strict. My dad's a cop, my mom's a teacher. They're not mean exactly, but they expect things from me. Good grades. Good behavior. College plans. They're the kind of people who care what the neighbors think. I knew if I told them, they'd lose it. Maybe kick me out. Maybe worse. I didn't want to find out. So, I pretended everything was fine. I started wearing hoodies and loose jeans, even when it was hot. I said I had a cold when I skipped PE. I told Lena I was just tired when I didn't want to hang out. At night, I searched online. How to hide a pregnancy. Teen moms with no support. Can you give birth alone? Some of the stuff I read scared me. Some of it made me cry. But I kept reading. I made a list of things I might need. Diapers, clothes, baby wipes. I didn't even know what half the stuff was for. I started saving my lunch money. I took a part-time job after school at a coffee place near the library. I told my parents it was for college savings. They believed me. I didn't care about college anymore. I was thinking about formula and baby blankets. Every day I checked the mirror to see if my belly was showing. At first, nothing. Then slowly, it started to change. Just a little. I wrapped myself in scarves and coats. Wore big backpacks in front of me to block the view. Nobody noticed. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. Lena asked once if I was okay. I told her I was just tired from work. She offered to bring me snacks, but I said no thanks. I felt awful lying to her. She was the one person I used to tell everything to. School felt like another planet. I sat in class pretending to take notes, while really I was wondering what contractions felt like. My math teacher gave me a warning for zoning out. I wanted to laugh. If only she knew. One day, I was walking home when I saw this little abandoned cabin near the woods. I'd passed it a million times, but that day I actually stopped and looked. The windows were boarded up. The roof sagged a little, but it had walls and a door, and it was quiet. I broke in with a hairpin. It smelled like dust and old wood. There was a broken couch and a bunch of dead spiders. But it felt private. Safe. I sat on the floor and thought, maybe I could do it here. Maybe this is where it could happen. I started going there after work. Cleaning it up. Bringing a flashlight, blankets, a small heater I found in our garage. I stole some old towels and bottles of water. I made a little corner that looked almost like a room. I called it my backup plan. Sometimes I sat there and just talked to my belly. I said dumb stuff like, I'm sorry, and I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't feel like a mom. I felt like a scared kid who made a huge mistake. But other times I felt something else. Like, maybe I could do this. Maybe I didn't need anyone. At night, I'd lie in bed and press my hand to my stomach. I swore I could feel a tiny flutter, like butterfly wings. Like someone whispering, I'm here. Keeping a pregnancy secret is harder than you think. It's not just the belly. It's the lying, the sneaking around, the pretending everything is normal when it's not. Every morning I woke up more tired than the day before. My body hurt in ways I didn't expect. My back, my legs, even my teeth sometimes. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. My face was puffy, my skin breaking out. I looked older, like a stranger. At school, I stayed quiet. I stopped raising my hand in class. I ate lunch alone in the library or outside near the track where nobody paid attention to me. Lena tried texting me a few times, but I kept saying I was busy or just tired. Eventually, she stopped trying. I hated myself for that. I missed her. I missed talking to someone who really knew me. But what could I say? Hey, remember that guy from the summer who ghosted me? Yeah, I'm pregnant and hiding it from everyone, including you.
No.
I couldn't risk it. The only adult who looked at me sideways was Miss Hawks, the school librarian. She was maybe 50, quiet, always drinking tea and humming to herself. One day, she stopped me as I was returning a book. You all right, Nora? She asked. You look pale. Just tired, I said quickly. Late shift at work. She didn't say anything else, just nodded and let me go. But I could feel her eyes on me the whole walk out. After that, I avoided the library for a while. Meanwhile, the cabin became my secret world. I went there after work whenever I could. I cleaned it up more, found an old mattress someone had dumped behind a building and dragged it all the way through the woods. Not perfect, but better than the cold floor. I brought a bag of baby stuff I'd collected from thrift stores. Tiny socks, a soft yellow blanket, a pacifier still in its package. I stored everything in a little crate. Just seeing it made me feel like maybe I could be ready. At home, I had to be extra careful. My mom was starting to ask questions, like why I was always wearing hoodies, why I skipped dinner so often. I told her I had cramps, that I wasn't hungry, that I was just stressed about school. One night, she tried to come into my room, and I practically yelled at her to leave. She looked shocked, then mad. I apologized, said I had a headache. She bought it for now. But I knew I was running out of time. My stomach was definitely showing now. Not huge, but enough that I had to constantly hunch forward and hold books or my bag in front of me. I walked like I was hiding something, because I Googled how far along I might be. I guessed I was 7 months. Maybe more. I didn't have doctor visits to check. Just my own guesses and what the internet told me. The baby kicked sometimes, soft at first, then stronger. At night, it felt like a tiny creature rolling inside me. I talked to him. I didn't know if it was a boy or girl, but I started saying he just to make it easier. I told him stories, sang songs I remembered from when I was little. I told him I was scared, but I was trying. Work was getting harder too. My feet hurt all the time. My manager, Nick, started noticing how I leaned on the counter more, how I moved slower. You okay? He asked once. Yeah, I said, smiling. Didn't sleep much. He shrugged. All right, but if you need a break, say something. I nodded and went back to wiping tables. My hands were swollen. My whole body felt heavy, like I was dragging around a giant secret. One night at the cabin, I broke down crying. I don't even know what triggered it. I was sitting on the mattress, folding a tiny onesie I'd bought for 50 cents, and I just started sobbing. Like full-on ugly crying. My chest hurt. I couldn't breathe. I wanted someone to hold me and say it would be okay. I wanted my mom, but she didn't know, and I didn't know how to tell her. I whispered, I don't know what I'm doing, over and over. The wind outside howled through the trees. I felt like the only person on the planet. Then, for the first time, I felt a strong kick, like the baby was answering me, telling me to keep going. I wiped my face, sat up straighter. I wasn't okay, but I was still here, still trying. The next day at school, I was exhausted. I had barely slept. During fourth period, I felt dizzy. My vision got fuzzy. I put my head down on the desk, hoping the teacher wouldn't notice. But she did. Nora, are you feeling all right?
I've fine, I mumbled.
Go see the nurse, she said, handing me a hall pass. I walked slowly, heart pounding. The nurse took one look at me and said I looked pale. She wanted to take my temperature, but I made up a lie about having a stomach bug and needing to go home. They called my mom. She picked me up without asking many questions. Maybe she thought I was being dramatic, like I sometimes am during tests. That night, I knew things were getting close. My body felt different, heavier. My lower back ached constantly. The kicks were stronger more often. My belly felt tighter. I looked at the calendar and counted. Maybe 4 weeks left. Maybe less. I told myself I could do it. I had a plan. I had the cabin. I had the baby bag ready. I had strength. Sort of. What I didn't have was time. It started on a cold Friday night. I had just finished a late shift at the coffee shop. My back was killing me and my feet felt like balloons. Nick told me to go home early, said I looked half dead. I walked slow, holding my side. I kept getting these cramps, tight, sharp, and way more intense than before. I thought maybe it was just another bad day. I'd been getting those pains for a week now. But this time something felt different.
Deeper.
Like something was really happening. At home, I acted normal. Ate a banana.
Said goodnight.
Went to my room and locked the door. I waited for the house to quiet down. Then I grabbed my packed bag from the closet, the one I'd been keeping ready for weeks. I put on my coat, stuffed a pillow under my arm, and snuck out the back door. It was freezing outside. The wind cut through my hoodie like knives. I kept one hand on my belly the whole time as I walked through the woods. Every few minutes I had to stop and breathe through the pain. By the time I got to the cabin, I was sweating and shaking. I locked the door behind me and dropped my bag. The mattress was in the corner, waiting. I put down the pillow, unfolded the blanket, and sat. Then another pain hit, stronger this time, longer. I grabbed the edge of the mattress and cried out. This was it. I was really about to have a baby. Alone. No doctor.
No, Mom.
No hospital. Just me. I tried to remember everything I'd read online.
Breathe. Stay calm.
Don't push too soon.
Keep warm.
I had towels, water bottles, baby clothes. Not much, but it had to be enough. The contractions came faster. Each one knocked the air out of me. I started timing them on my watch. 5 minutes apart. Then 4. Then 3. I screamed into a blanket to muffle the sound. I didn't want anyone finding me. At one point, I thought I might pass out. I was soaked in sweat, shaking, crying. I kept saying, please, please, just let this be over. Then the urge to push hit me. My whole body locked up. I knelt on the mattress, gripping the blanket, and pushed with everything I had. I don't know how long it went on. Time didn't exist anymore. Just pain and pressure and screaming. And then suddenly it happened. A slippery, warm weight in my hands. He was here. He didn't cry right away and my heart stopped. I wiped his tiny face with a towel, cleared his nose and mouth like the video showed. Then, finally, the tiniest cry filled the room. I laughed. I cried. I held him against me and whispered, "You're okay. You're okay. You're here." He was so small. Red, wrinkled, with barely any hair. But perfect. His fingers curled around mine like he already knew me. I cut the cord with the scissors I'd cleaned the week before. I wrapped him in the yellow blanket and held him close. He stopped crying and just looked at me, wide-eyed and quiet. I stared at him like he was a miracle. Because he was. But then the fear came. What now? I was bleeding. I felt dizzy.
Weak.
The room tilted every time I blinked. I knew something wasn't right. The bleeding wasn't stopping. I laid down, holding him against me, trying to stay awake. I was scared if I closed my eyes, I wouldn't wake up. That's when I made the choice. I reached for my phone. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped it. I had 1 bar of service. I didn't even think, I just hit Mom. She answered on the second ring. "Nora? Why are you calling so late?" I couldn't speak at first. I was crying too hard. "Nora? What's wrong?"
I'm sorry, you whispered.
"I had a baby." Silence. Then, "What?" "I'm in the woods. In the old cabin. I think something's wrong."
I'm bleeding.
She didn't ask questions. I heard her shout to my dad in the background, then the line cut out. 10 minutes later, maybe less, I heard tires on the gravel. Then footsteps. My mom burst through the cabin door, flashlight in hand, eyes wide with horror. She saw me lying there, holding the baby, and dropped to her knees beside me. "Oh my God," she whispered, hands covering her mouth. "I'm sorry." I cried again. I didn't know what else to do.
She didn't yell. She didn't get mad.
She touched my face, checked the baby, wrapped us both in her coat. My dad came in behind her, pale and shaking. He didn't say anything either. Just took off his jacket and helped carry me to the car. The whole ride to the hospital was a blur. I held my baby tight the entire time, scared someone would take him away. At the hospital, everything happened fast. Nurses, IVs, warm blankets. They took the baby to be checked. I begged them not to separate us. One kind nurse held my hand and said, "He's okay. You're okay." I passed out after that. When I woke up, it was morning. My mom was in the chair beside me, holding the baby and crying softly. My dad stood by the window, staring out but not leaving. I expected them to yell, to ask me how I could do this alone, to say I ruined my life. But they didn't. My mom looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "You should have told us." I was scared. "I know," she said, "but you're not alone anymore." I thought the hardest part would be giving birth. But I was wrong. The hard part came after. We were in the hospital for 3 days. The baby, my baby, was healthy. They said he was small but strong. I named him Eli. I'd picked the name weeks ago, but it felt real when I wrote it down on the birth certificate. Eli Gray Jameson. My parents didn't say much the first day. They were both in shock, I think. My mom stayed by my bed, helping with feedings and diaper changes. My dad hovered near the door, awkward and quiet, like he didn't know where to stand. On the second night, my mom asked me why I hadn't told them.
I didn't know what to say.
I just kept repeating. I was scared.
She didn't argue.
She just nodded, eyes glassy, and said, "We'll figure this out." I didn't deserve that kind of grace. Not after the lying. Not after the cabin. But I was so grateful for it, I could barely speak. The day we went home, everything felt weird. I walked into the house I'd lived in my whole life, but now it felt different. Smaller. Quieter. Like the walls were watching me. My little brother, Max, was the first to run up and ask, "Is that your baby?" My mom shushed him and said, "He's tired. Let's give them space." We set up a bassinet in the corner of my room. It was strange, seeing Eli sleep there while my posters and textbooks sat on the same desk where I used to write essays about Shakespeare. At night, he cried. A lot. I had no idea what I was doing. Every diaper change felt like a test. Every feeding felt like a guessing game. There were moments when I just sat on the floor and cried, holding him while he screamed in my arms. I whispered, I'm trying, over and over. My mom helped when she could. She brought me snacks, showed me how to swaddle, reminded me to nap. But I could tell she was still wrapping her head around it all. One day she stood in my doorway watching me rock Eli and said quietly, "I still can't believe you did it alone." I couldn't believe it either. School was out of the question for a while. I was technically still enrolled, but I stopped going. Some counselor called the house, asking why I hadn't returned after winter break. My mom told them I was on extended leave and hung up before they could ask questions. Lena found out the next week. She showed up at our door with a paper bag full of baby clothes. Her eyes were wide with shock, but she didn't look angry. "I heard from someone at school," she said. "They said you had a baby and almost died in the woods." I thought it was a rumor. "Not a rumor," I said, holding Eli awkwardly in my arms. We stood there in silence for a second. Then she said, "Can I hold him?" I handed him over slowly, scared she'd think I was disgusting or stupid or reckless. But she just smiled down at him and whispered, "Hi, baby." Then she looked at me and said, "You should have told me, Nora." I nodded. "I know." We sat on my bed for an hour just talking. I told her everything. About Jason. About the cabin. About the pain and the fear, and the moment Eli took his first breath. She listened with tears in her eyes and held my hand when I started crying. "I'm not mad," she said. "I just wish I could have been there for you. I didn't want to drag you into it. You're my best friend," she said. "You couldn't drag me if you tried." Having her back felt like getting a piece of myself returned. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel totally alone. But not everything got better. My dad still wasn't saying much. He went to work, came home, barely looked at the baby. I caught him staring at Eli once when he thought no one was watching. There was something in his eyes, something I couldn't read. Not hate. Not love. Just confusion. One night I asked him, "Do you hate me?" He looked up, startled.
What? No.
"You haven't really talked to me since it happened." He rubbed his face and sat down across from me. "I don't hate you, Nora. I'm trying to understand." "I was scared," I said. "I know," he replied. "I'm scared too." That was all he said. But it was enough. At least for now. Eli turned 3 weeks old and started smiling in his sleep. I lived for those moments. They made the 3 a.m. feedings and constant diaper blowouts feel like less of a nightmare. Some days I still felt like I was drowning. Like I wasn't good enough. Like I was just a kid pretending to be someone's mom. But Eli didn't care about any of that. He looked at me like I was his whole world. Maybe that's what being a mom really is, showing up, even when you feel like falling apart. Holding on when you want to run. Loving harder when you're afraid. And I did love him. With everything I had, spring came slowly that year. Snow melted off the rooftops and the trees got their color back. I'd sit by the window with Eli on my chest, watching the world come alive again. He was 2 months old when he started smiling for real, not just in his sleep, but at me, like he knew I was his person. That smile changed everything. Life was still hard. That didn't magically go away. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was learning how to live again. I started going to online school. My counselor set it up after my mom explained the situation. They didn't ask too many questions. I was grateful for that. I did assignments during Eli's naps or in the middle of the night when he wouldn't sleep. It wasn't easy, but it was something. It felt good to use my brain again, to think about things outside of diapers and bottles. Lena came over almost every weekend. She brought snacks and helped me study while rocking Eli in her arms. She called herself Auntie Lena and told me she'd teach him how to skateboard someday. "You're gonna raise a little legend," she said once, kissing his forehead. I can feel it. It felt good to laugh again. My mom was slowly starting to act like herself. She wasn't hovering as much anymore, but she was still always there, watching, guiding. She'd leave little notes for me in the kitchen. Stuff like, "You're doing great," or "Don't forget to eat," or "Let me take Eli for a walk while you nap." They meant more than she probably knew. My dad was slower to come around. One afternoon, I caught him holding Eli when he thought I was asleep. I stayed quiet and watched from the doorway. He looked down at him, face soft, and whispered, "You're lucky you got her." I don't think he meant for me to hear that. But I did. And I held on to it. A few weeks later, he offered to drive me and Eli to the pediatrician.
Just like that.
No big speech. He just grabbed his keys and said, "You ready to go?" In the car, he asked questions. What Eli liked, how much he was eating, if I was getting any sleep. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a start. By May, things began to feel almost normal again. Or, at least, a new version of normal. I still didn't go out much. I didn't really want to. Most of my old friends had moved on. They posted pictures of prom dresses and college decisions while I posted blurry shots of Eli wrapped in a towel after bath time. Sometimes I felt a little left out, like I was watching a life I used to want pass me by. But then Eli would grip my finger with his whole hand or giggle at something I said, and the ache in my chest would soften. I didn't need to be like everyone else anymore. I just needed to be his mom. One afternoon, Lena and I were sitting outside, watching Eli kick around in a blanket on the grass. The sun was warm. The air smelled like cut grass and blooming flowers. Everything felt light for once. "You're really doing it," Lena said. "Doing what?" "Being a mom. Being you again. It's wild." I smiled. Some days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. But you are. That's the thing. You're holding it. Even when it's messy. I looked at Eli, who was staring up at the sky like it was the most amazing thing in the world. I whispered, "He saved me." Lena looked at me sideways. "You think that?" "I know it. Because I did." Before Eli, I felt like I was falling into a hole with no bottom. After he came, I had something to hold on to.
A reason to keep going.
A few nights later, my mom knocked on my door. "I was thinking," she said, sitting on the edge of my bed. "Maybe in the fall, you could go back to school part-time. I can help with Eli during the day. Your dad, too." I blinked. "Seriously?"
Yeah.
"We'll figure it out. One step at a time." I felt a lump in my throat. "Thank you." She reached over and brushed a piece of hair behind my ear. "You've grown up so fast." "I didn't mean to." She smiled. "None of us mean to. Life just happens." That night, I stayed up late writing in a journal. It was something I hadn't done in forever. I wrote about Eli's first laugh, the way he loved staring at ceiling fans, how his tiny hand curled into my shirt when he slept. I wrote about fear and guilt and love and everything in between. And I ended with this. I'm not the same girl I was before.
I'm stronger. I'm braver.
I'm someone's mom now. And maybe that's not the life I planned, but it's the life I'm building. One day, one breath, one bottle at a time.